Well, hello and welcome to another special video. Today I thought we might take a look at one of my favorite card-shaped objects, which is rather game warping and pretty fun in my opinion. And that one is Biding Time. And Biding Time, as you can see, is a prophecy from Rising Sun. And biding time tells us at the start of your cleanup, you set aside your hand face down, and then at the start of your next turn, put those cards in hand. So this circumvents anything that could attack your hand size usually. You set aside your hand, and even if you, I don't know, have to discard your hand from 5 to 3, you still will put all of the set aside cards into your hand at the start of your next turn. And thus it makes for a really, really powerful prophecy. Just a quick refresher, what are prophecies? Prophecies get, well, sped up or get into the groove by having 5 omen cards played, and omen cards all have this +1 sun token. There are 5 of them. I think there's Tea House, there's Mountain Shrine, River Shrine, Kitsune, and Poet, and also Rustic Village, so 6 at least, if I haven't forgotten anything. But yeah, playing 5 of those Omen cards will activate Biding Time, so in a big chunk of games, Biding Time will activate. And yeah, it is, even without any synergies or combos or whatever, it is a fun thing to play with. But yeah, setting up my randomizer website with all of the combos and all of this stuff, actually I can show it over here. I also wrote down lots of the combos and synergies for Biding Time, and I thought it might be worth a video to showcase some of these, to also yeah, make you aware of the counters when those synergies do not work. We can already see it here, spoiler. Frigate and Haunted Woods do counter biding time strategies quite a bit, and we can even look at the weak synergies. There are 15 of them, but I am sure this is not an exhaustive list. Just in general, biding time is rather nice. But back to the Dominion. What are the the things that Biding Time likes? Well, Biding Time really enjoys anything that relies on the start of your turn hand size somehow. This can be something like Magnate, which says reveal your hand +1 card per treasure in it, which is amazing if you've just set aside a handful of treasures on the last turn. It can be Crossroads, +1 card per victory card revealed, which is amazing if you've set aside a bunch of victory cards. And then also, and to a lesser extent, because you usually want to play those actions, but City Quarter, reveal your hand, +1 card per action card revealed. So naturally, these are more or less the same. These all go in the same vein. They like your starting hand to contain great cards. Then other biding time synergies include extra turn stuff, like Mission, which says take an extra turn after this one, but not a third turn in a row, during which you can't buy cards, which is essentially you will at least set aside 5 cards for the then normal turn after the mission turn, because, well, yeah, you should just be able to not play your hand, but at least set it aside for later. Outpost to a lesser extent, as it's essentially +3 cards, and also outpost turns can be set up quite nicely with biding time. Then there's the Odysseys pile, which contains Voyage, also a nice synergy, biding time Voyage, because, well, Voyage essentially becomes +1 action, +5 cards, and then also plus a gain or whatever on your on your Voyage turn. And then biding time will allow you to make use of all of the other cards you've drawn. Some really fun synergies with that. And then also more things that synergize with biding time are stuff like Shepherd, in the same vein as Crossroads, really profits off of having a lot of victory cards in your hand at the start of your turn. And then to a smaller extent, also Trail and Sheepdog are biding time synergies, in my opinion. Um, Trail lets you, well, Trail to a very, very small extent, because I mean, sometimes you want to gain trails and then you can already play them when biding time is active, and then you will draw a card that will be stashed aside for use for on the next turn, this kind of stuff. But Sheepdog even more, because Sheepdog says when you gain a card, you may play this from your hand. And in your buy phase, if you play the sheepdogs from your hand, usually that's not super exciting, but with biding time, you're going to draw into your buys and get to set them aside immediately. So these are, in my opinion, the main synergies and combos. We can once again look at the rest of the list here. I'm setting it up right now. And if we just order by type, well, I think, okay, I haven't really talked about tea house, which is actually the most likely thing you'll see with biding time. And yeah, well, just having 3 tea houses and a silver becomes a golden deck that can province each turn and is essentially immune to any discard attacks. Sometimes it's a bit awkward to set up, and sometimes you will want to put plus buy in and build a bit bigger, but it's certainly something to be aware of, like the biding time tea house golden deck. Then I've already talked about all of those, and there are a few Nombos where you might not consider going for certain things if biding time is around, like rebuild. If you, well, if you don't have any way to discard green cards, you will always need to rely on having it somehow not drawing them, which is terrible for rebuild strategies. And Tactician, well, also pretty self-explanatory. You discard your hand with Tactician, so before you get to set it aside with biding time, so that's not great. Then, to a smaller extent, also donate. Of course, donate still will be the strongest thing to do on your turn 1 and turn 2. But once biding time is active, donate's timing will mean that the cards you set aside with biding time will never see the light of donate. Like if you buy donate, then set aside your hand at the end of your turn, and then on the next turn, donate is going to activate. And because donate says you first put your hand in, you put your cards into all of your cards into your hand and trash, and then do anything else, you will only afterwards be able to put your biding time stuff into your hand. But this is rather minor. And then, of course, we'll look into this in a sec. I will actually showcase them each on their own. Frigate and Haunted Woods are terrible, terrible counters to biding time, and you might only want to go for biding time based strategies if there is some sort of defense, like Guardian maybe, or a Lighthouse or Moat. Although Moat might also be a bit awkward, but yeah. So back to Dominion. I thought it might be nice to showcase these synergies by just playing this synergy-laden kingdom. And I will go back to just recording Dominion. And the AI has already started its turn, so let's go through this game. Now, opening wise, I'm not super sure what to open here. We want biding time to activate, but with tea house around, it's also fairly sure to activate. We do notice that this kingdom does not offer any plus buy, so the only ways to gain extra cards are Sunken Treasure, which can gain you extra actions. Then Voyage or Outpost also grant you extra turns on which you could gain cards. So these are pretty nice, but apart from that, it's a bit bleak. And I think here in order to hit 5 early to get the tea house in early, like sheepdog silver is a great opening. You could also think about shepherd silver. It's a bit more on the risky side. Um, but yeah, I think both of those are good. I don't think we'll show off all of the strategies, like all of the synergies in here. Probably Magnate is not going to matter that much, probably, especially if there's Crossroads around and Shepherd around. But yeah, I think we do hit 5 here, which is great already. Now, with this 3, we could just go for a Crossroads or another Sheepdog. AI goes for Potion, which does not make any sense. Sometimes really, like lately, AI's plays have utterly confused me. Old map is not super great with biding time. Like, it's fine, I guess. It might get us to proper places in the early game. Actually, let's go for an old map here. Might be a bit less risky than Shepherd or Crossroads. But we do hit another tea house here. And the next 5 after this tea house should be for sure just an outpost. And we'll probably draw our old map dead here. Yes. I guess we just pick up a crossroads. The sheepdog, of course, is not super exciting before biding time activates. And yeah, if the sun tokens were already lower, then I would have said, okay, we go for a mission here, try to activate it and stash aside our hand. Since that's not the case, we might just go for a shepherd here. And we hope that AI plays with tea house. Nope, it does not. And we do draw our crossroads in an awkward situation. But we do get to pick up an outpost to put into the shuffle, and now already we get to see a bit of this stuff in action. I think we just pick up another crossroads here. We could also think about just passing our turn, but since we have the sheepdog in hand, it makes sense to draw cards, or we could go for an estate actually. Estate might also not, like we have both shepherd and crossroads to draw cards later. They both profit off of having victory cards in hand. So maybe we go for this, and then the outpost, as you saw, is already a great outpost turn just because we have set aside this estate and the two cards we've just drawn with sheepdog. So we do get to get through quite a lot here. And what do we hit? We hit 12, of course. So, and this is another thing. It's important for those biding time strategies is that usually you do not want to play all of your stuff. Like right here, we could play all of those coppers and silvers, but and already hit like colony or platinum or whatever. But since we would need to draw all of those, and then on the next turn, we really would not. Yeah, it wouldn't be super great for us, especially since this shuffle is kind of awkward. There's the sheepdog in there. There is there's sheepdog, two estates, a copper, and the old map in there. So really not a great shuffle. I mean, and this kind of self-imposed. Maybe this estate should have been a crossroads instead. But yeah, so as paradoxical as it might sound, maybe just going for gold or for another tea house is the best thing to do here. And then starting next turn, we should be able to colony rather consistently. We could also think about sunken treasure in order to gain us a few distant shores, but probably just tea house is best. Ah, yeah, it's not the copper, it's a pasture, of course. I'm also gonna bide my time by having some nice coffee while the AI is playing out its turn. Yeah, this potion, this Philosopher's Stone is terrible. I don't go for this kind of stuff. And Yeah, let's hope we find one of our draw cards, otherwise we might be in a somewhat awkward position. We will at least be able to buy mission, but a mission is so much worse than anything else. Let's actually discard a copper here. Let's keep more of the stuff in our hand and more of the green stuff in our hand. And we do find the crossroads, and I guess we were almost guaranteed to, well, we were guaranteed to find either crossroads, shepherd, or the outpost at least. And yeah, maybe it doesn't matter whether we play the crossroads or the shepherd, I think. And we do get to hit 11 for a colony. And noted that we play as little as possible, and we now reacting sheepdog to just one card in your discard is essentially replacing the sheepdog out of your hand with the card that you would draw, because now we would, if we react this, we will need to draw the sheepdog. But in this case, it's actually great because we will have the shepherd in hand, and there having the colony at the start of our turn is better than the sheepdog. So yeah, we do get to draw all of this stuff, and we do get to hit colony again, and essentially starting this turn, this should be just double colony each turn, just because, well, we've set up our deck pretty nicely, and yeah, this just shows the power of biding time. I don't know. I hope this video is of some use of you for you. Of course, actually having a distant shore is smuggled in might have been nice, but yeah, the colony stuff is just so much more potent. Just because the distant shore also would gain us more estates. But yeah, here we can just keep on playing the crossroads. The crossroads are going to be better and better the more colonies we accumulate. And yeah, let me just finish up this game, and then we'll take a look at Haunted Woods and Frigate for a second, and then wrap up this video already. Yeah, AI. Of course, with the distant shore, you have a bit more agency or more pressure on the points, because you can actually make 2 extra points each turn with each of the distant shores that you have. But really just going for, oh, of course, I did not mean to end my buy phase there. I meant to end the action phase there. I was still having the muscle memory of Crossroads. Well, that's what you get for talking over. But anyways, this is just going to set us back by 10 points, which we are ahead anyways. And what was I getting to? This little episode distracted me. Yeah, what's important about these kinds of decks is that you have 2 of the strong draw cards. Like we have Shepherd and Crossroads, but also 2 Crossroads would be very much sufficient. And yeah, you see that already. Now, this is what I meant, then the end actions. And let's not play everything, it's important. Although we could certainly afford it with the amount of draw we have. And yeah, just having 2 of them is really beneficial. But yeah, this was rather slow, 13 turns, but with 78 points, consistently being able to double colony of this outpost thingy is very strong. And I would believe if also the AI had gone for tea houses earlier instead of the weird potion philosopher's stone stuff, and biding time had activated earlier, then we might have been even faster here. But yeah, let me set up the Haunted Wood stuff. Maybe we kick out Trail and Philosopher's Stone. I just wanted these things to not not interrupt us. Yeah, these are really stinkers in terms of biding time strategies, because Frigate, if your opponent plays it and then you play any action card, then you have to discard down to four cards in hand afterwards, which of course, just having put all of those nice biding time cards into your hand is a terrible, terrible fate for you. And in the same vein, Haunted Woods will essentially prevent you from buying any cards with if you go for like one of those biding time crossroads whatever strategies, although this might still be not as bad as Frigate. Like if you, I don't know, still have the crossroads and a bunch of victory cards in your hand, you can set up your next hand at least in a way that you would hit all of them, but you do not get all of this nice set aside stuff that you would usually get with biding time. So look out for those when going for any of the biding time strategies, and other than that, yeah, be off to the races. And also one mistake I see, yeah, or I read a lot of players tend to do is keeping on trashing after having biding time. Like it's much more powerful to just set aside your treasures, set aside your excess coppers, whatever, in your hand. Just don't play them, and then you might have this very, very nice last turn in which you just get to not care at all and just play everything. But yeah, this video is already 20 minutes. Was supposed to be a short one. Maybe I shouldn't have put in the playthrough, but I thought it was fun. So I'll wrap this up here, and I will try to catch you in the next one. One last time, I will advertise my random kingdominion.streamlit.app, the website where you can view kingdoms, combos, and randomize your own. You probably have seen the video if you're following me anyways, but yeah, enjoy, and I hope you found those biding time tricks useful. And until then, and until the next time, I will say goodbye.